Hey, welcome back, everybody. Welcome to GMIHub Online. I am your host, Cheryl Duick, and I'm so glad you are with us. GMIHub Online is a program that we run every week to help you who are artists or anyone involved in the music industry get connected and get informed about things that will help you move forward in your career in the music scene. Tonight, we are going to be talking about another aspect of the music scene, which is the promoter's perspective on events. Now, I know you may think promoters just only market your events, but there's a whole lot more behind that, and we're going to find out more about it. But before we go into that and I introduce our guest, let me introduce you to my wonderful co host, who's also been nominated to be uh, the International Podcast Host of the Year for the Praise Factor Awards. Dale Borland. Dale.
Thank you. Wow. Yeah. Praise Factor I've been nominated. And that's really cool. Thank you for that. Okay. So thank you so much for joining us. If it's your first time visiting us here on GMI Hub Online, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like and the notification bell so that you'll know the next time we put a video up. And we'd love to connect with you on an ongoing basis. And how we're going to do that is by having you drop us an email. Go to gmihub.ca. That's our website. You can find out more about us there at gmihub.ca. And there's a place there you can connect with us. And we want to be able to send you once a month. We'll send you a great email. It's just basically called Hub Happening. And it's kind of tell you about what we're up to. And if you are an events planner, you're an artist, you got a single coming out, or you've got something that you want the music community to kind of talk about or to hear about, let us know. And we'll put that in our Hub Happening. Yeah, that's right. Free promotion. We're talking promotion tonight. What a coinky dink. All right, so let's talk about that, shall we?
Our guest tonight, before I say his name, I'll give you his background. He's had over 20 years in the music and film industry. He's had 10 years in event production and marketing. He's a producer, the host of Praise Joint, which is a CGMA award-winning radio show that is no longer on the air, but when it existed, it was hot. He's worked with several indie and major record labels and he worked in music distribution. He works with the Hamilton Arts Council as a curator of the BIPOC music series. He's worked with the Hamilton Art Gallery and Super Curl Music Fest. He's worked with Niagara Jazz Fest. He's worked with two-time Juno Award-winning reggae band, the Satellites, I think is what I'm seeing here, as their booking manager. He's worked with Grammy and Dove Award hip hop artist Flame. He's a producer of At Home and Garden Show in Niagara Falls. He's a former chair for the advisory board for the Juno Awards. And he's a producer of a mini documentary film called Joyful Noise. The person I'm talking about is not a stranger to GMIHub. He's been with us before. It's actually been a while since he's been on here. I'm introducing to you DeShaun Jones. DeShaun, welcome back.
Mr.
And
Jones.
you got to unmute your mic.
Put your microphone on.
Mic is unmuted.
Jones in the house. You know what's funny, DeShaun? I was listening to your little rap there, and I was thinking, Home and Garden? What?
Yeah.
Think of all this musical entourage of stuff and Home and Garden. What?
Yeah, I did it back in my old homes, little town, Chippewa, in Niagara Falls. Because I worked with a company.
Cool, man.
Yeah, I worked with a company that did so much. Being in event marketing, I went to so many different home and garden shows and noticed that some of the small towns really gravitate to it. And being that I was living there at the time,
cool.
I wanted to start something and see where it would go. It was fun. It was good to try it. Yeah. Wouldn't do it again, but awesome. it was good to try it.
Been there, done that. Bought the T-shirt. Well, here's the thing. We're going to be talking about promotion, and it's funny when I talk about T-shirts because that's a part of it too. Okay, the difference between the role of a concert and events promoter, and can you kind of define what the importance, especially in the music scene today?
Well, the concert promoter or the individuals that companies or single people that actually put on events to bring artists to an audience are very vital. They're pretty much in line with a record label that would have value in that because they will track the community and track what artists are really budding, and they're the ones that actually provide an opportunity for that connection between an artist and an audience. Some artists do them by themselves, but when you're looking at individuals that actually do it for whether like a living or a profession, then those are some things they look for. So it's very vital to have that component and know how to do it yourself until you can get someone to do it for you.
I think that's an interesting comment, because you talk about knowing how to do it yourself. That might be kind of overwhelming for some artists. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to kind of unpack that a little bit so that we can flesh out, maybe cover the basics, but also maybe dig into it a little deeper.
Sure.
So we're talking about events planning and concerts. So the promoter's role in that thing, you talked a bit about having your finger on the pulse on what's current in artists. I mean, you didn't say those words, but you're looking at, where to kind of look for upcoming artists. Now, artists approaching promoters, I'm throwing a whole bunch of stuff at you right now, but
yeah, I got you.
Maybe flesh that out a bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way if you want to get noticed, or you want to get on either on a tour, or you want to get into a venue, a live music venue, you need to know how to build out that relationship with that talent booker or the venue owner or the promoter that is in and they're usually the ones that are the gatekeepers between a club, a church, a festival, a theater, things of that nature. So you just need to know what to present and when and how to present it to them. And I always say be professionally persistent, but you need to make sure you have your assets in gear. In regards to your photo, video, content, you need to make sure you have everything to go. So as soon as you do get that connection, you can hit the switch button, and there's no time, because it moves fast. To trying to get things going with a proper production.
Right, you're talking about a CV kind of thing, like a resume. How does one artist compile, and what do they need? What are the kind of things they need to maybe approach a promoter and say, look, hey, could you help me promote this gig?
Well, if you're going to a promoter, it's either to get booked onto an existing show or have them produce shows or book shows for you. So you need to give a background. You need to show them what you look like, what are you presenting on stage. How does the crowd interact? How many people are actually in any type of various size venues. So then you can establish your value in the marketplace, and those are key things that you have to have. You have the typical things. You have your audio, and you'll drive those people to your social media, not social media, but you'll drive them to your website, so then they can get that information from there, and then they'll go and do their tracking on their social media by seeing how many subscribers you have, and then it's all about impact, and then they'll know your value, or you should know your value from there.
Yeah, I like what you said about finding an artist who's doing a gig and you can join in. Talk to that promoter, and that's a great idea for someone who's probably new in the business, trying to get their legs, performance legs, whatever you want to call it. They have a chance to see performing. Maybe they say, I could open for that person, and then talk to that promoter. That's a great idea. I think that's really good.
It's always good to collaborate, and if you hit them early enough, and you have a riveting story, and you've presented yourself in a professional way, and you have. You know your value. You could say, well, based on my past history, I know I'm good for 100 tickets. I'm good for 50 tickets. So you should know what you need to have. Do you have your ducks in a row, so then you can know how to negotiate properly, or at least pitch yourself for the job.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's like putting butts in seats, I always say. You want to make sure that you can able to facilitate the venue for whatever gig you're doing. That's mostly on you if you're a headliner, I guess. But yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, even at any stage, you're looking at your goal is to cover your costs, and then that way, once you can at least cover your costs for production, and everything else is just gravy. But bottom line, this is why it's encouraging for young artists to try to do their own shows, so they understand what a promoter has to go through, and what it takes to put on to at least get 10 people through a door or 50 people through the door. What you have to do, and especially if you're building a relationship with a venue. And depending on what obviously in the kingdom, it's churches usually, or youth festivals or conferences. Just do your research on knowing what events and you have to know your audience, and then from there, you pitch your story.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I was just listening and just taking it all in here. So if an artist is going to be wanting to promote themselves, so how do they it asks, as you said, it helps them understand both sides of the coin, not only as an artist but also as an event planner and an event promoter.
Right.
One of the challenges that I know artists have is if they're putting themselves forward for an existing event, is what their answer should be when they get the message or they get the question, how much do you charge, right? And sometimes that's like a very hot question. What do you charge? I'll be honest, sometimes I get asked that question if I'm asked to sing, and I don't even know how to respond, that kind of question. So what kind of advice would you give an artist that, let's say they're starting out and they're asked this question? I think this goes along with how do they know their worth or their value, based on some of the things that you pointed out. What would you suggest to them?
Again, it's if you're just starting out, then obviously you should look at opportunities that you're going to get, like open mics. You're going to get into cafes. You're going to try to do art galleries. You're going to try and get into festivals, but they're going to be very small, county fairs maybe, or local festivals like showcases, conferences. Get exposure that way so you can start building up your resume, start building up your package. And then as you continue to build, those are opportunities that you're going to connect with an audience. And then you should be capturing that information somehow in every shape or form. Every name or every email is incremental, and that's a potential person that can be someone that can be a fan, as they call it, or a supporter of what you're doing. And then that's what you have when you can start building. And then when you go to someone who's, let's say, a big festival or a conference comes down, you can have a good conversation with them and say, after you've given them all the information so they could see, and you have documentation on video or as well as on your website, is then you start your negotiations from there. And then you can actually say, I know that I can bring 50 people. That will, because based on my demographic, but based on my subscription base, I have 50 people that I can say I'm performing at your church, and they'll pay $10 to come see me. So therefore, you should have a value of at least $500.
Right. Right.
And then because you got you still have hard costs you have to deal with. Just because you're starting out, it doesn't matter. You still have the same cost as somebody who's traveling to go to BC. There's still travel costs. So once you can cover your travel costs, then above and beyond that is you determine how you want to follow it. But I feel that if you can say I can bring 50 people to an event, a church or a venue or a festival, and obviously festivals are a little different because a lot of them are free to the public anyway, so those are good opportunities to try to get in. But I would usually say rule of thumb is look at that, but also look at what you're doing on your own. Like, are you doing your own public relations? Do you have a song on college radio? Do you have a song on Christian radio? Do you have a song on the local gospel radio stations, which are programs which are typically on the community radio stations? The CIUTs of the world, the CKUTs of the world, and those are right across Canada. There's usually some form of gospel programming. So again, it's penetrating the market, is saying, hey, I've been at this conference in BC. I've been at this cafe in Alberta. I've been to Nova Scotia, or I've saturated Ontario, or you've saturated your city. So it really depends on what work you've actually shown that you've done without anybody's help. And just to be honest with you, and it's like I said, if you do your shows yourself and you charge $5, then people will pay $5 to see you. If you charge $10, then that they'll pay that. But how did you reach those 10 people, those 50 people?
Right, exactly.
You've obviously done some work. So you've done your due diligence to know you've sent your single out. Make sure you've done that. You've contacted all the bloggers or the podcasters or the TV show, local TV programming. A lot of those local TV, cable 14s and of the world, they have community shows that showcase local entertainment, local artists. That's a huge mandate for our federal and provincial governments is to make sure that that young artists are getting opportunities to be showcased and developed. And gospel, unfortunately, is one of those most underdeveloped genres in Canada. Yeah, but we're going to change.
That to be true. Yes, we are. And it's interesting. You actually touched on something about showcasing artists, and that's something that GMIHub is passionate about. And we are doing that on an ongoing basis at
Yeah,
our
that's awesome.
live event. We have a live event which we broadcast on Monday night. You've probably seen many of the concerts that we have. And if you haven't seen one of our concerts, and maybe you're a musician or an artist and this is the first time you've heard about this, then get a hold of us. If you're a musician or an artist who's doing stuff actively, we want to help to showcase your work. We want to help to promote you and encourage you in the ministry that God has given you. So GMIHub.ca, go check it out. I regress. Anyways, I was just saying that.
That's awesome, man. I love you. I love what you guys are doing with that. I mean, you guys have totally continued just to pave the ways with opening up those opportunities and making the connections. And you guys are just—it's great. It's awesome. So as many people as can support, please support GMIHub.
Yes,
Agree with that.
we'll take that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know what? I want to go to a commercial right now before we go to our next set of questions. Is that work?
Now is the time to submit your original Christmas song.
The Who Is You. If you're a songwriter and would love to be a part of our Christmas compilation project, then you're in the right place.
Where can you submit? GMIHub.ca is the place. Please visit our website at GMIHub.ca and click on Family Christmas to find out how you can submit your song today.
You could be a part of the GMI Hub Family Christmas Volume 4.
That's right. And we're really excited about that project. It is coming out this Christmas, but we have to get those submissions in. So your song very well could be on that project. All you got to do is go to gmihub.ca and click on that Family Christmas, and it'll give you all the information you need to submit your song. And we are looking so forward to finding out what amazing musicians we have, because over the last 4 years, this is the fourth one we're doing, we have seen such amazing quality. It's just been overwhelming and really a blessing, because we know for a fact that out there are some people that have not been heard yet, and you could potentially do an incredible song for this project that would just be amazing. We appreciate you and your musicianship to make that happen.
That's right. And I believe the date that we are accepting this to is still mid-August. August the 15th is what we're accepting. So start thinking about it. If you probably have already thought about some songs, so now's the time to get motivated and actually get those songs going. So, and then you can get someone like DeShaun to help market it.
Yeah, that's right. You know, what's interesting, we're thinking about the middle of August 15th. We're thinking, who's thinking Christmas in August? But guys, seriously, we want to make that song good, produce it, and get it out there. And you got to start like now and make that. Yeah, man. Like I started my Christmas song last year. So anyway, that's the idea.
Nice. For sure. Definitely
Awesome.
Start early.
Yeah.
So let's get back into, like, I was going to try and see if I can see any questions coming up from our audience, but I haven't gotten into our chat yet. So I see Daryl is up too, so I don't know if any questions are coming here, but I want to go back into the mentality. I'm stepping back now from the artist being a promoter to the actual professional promoters, and there's a crazy question: is every promoter the same? Does everyone follow the same rules, as far as you know?
I mean, it depends on what the rules are in a way. I mean, each promoter obviously has different tastes, different genres but they do concerts in certain territories at certain sizes. Some promoters won't touch anything smaller than 30,000 people. Some promoters are just starting out and say, hey, if I can get 150 people to a show, I still have to do the same thing though. No matter what level you're at, whether you're an independent artist or a major record label, you have zero budget to $3 million budget. It's the same principles, same course of action, same time frame. I mean, things can happen a lot quicker because you have connections and things of that nature, and you're bigger brands. But it depends again at what level you are. But just take the same principles and procedures and do it. You still have to promote. You still have a certain timeline. You got to give time for other people to maneuver through your timeline that you have to hit. You got to build your relationship with media. You got to do paid for advertising. You got to know how to get out if you're doing street promotions, PR, if you're going to set up interviews for the artists, then, these are things that you have to make a decision on what you want to do. Some promoters don't do that, and then some promoters they'll do the promotions, but some don't go the extra mile because it depends on the event. But typically, when promoters usually will do a lot of the back end, they'll work with the record label, they'll work with the booking agent or the manager, where they will all team up together and do it. So these are things that, again, it depends on different levels, but they all have, certain promoters have different tactics and strategies on what they're doing, and it depends on the genre and the demographic that you're approaching.
But that doesn't make the artist a scapegoat. They have stuff to do as well. They have
of course,
talking about their headshots, their branding, and all these type of the setting up their I don't know what you call it, image, whatever you want to call it, so that there's something for the promoter to actually promote.
Assets.
So
they call them assets.
So the assets have to be strong. Again, those conversations may have to be had by someone other than the promoter, but there still is a large piece of the pie that really is on the shoulders of the artist anyway.
Yeah, you know what? The bottom line, really, it's a partnership. Anything between an artist and a promoter, it's a partnership, and it should be that both parties should need to be coming into that type of thing. If the promoter is booking them, it's the same thing. But if you're going to that promoter and you want to get booked on their thing, that's a different relationship building in itself. But if a promoter is going out, if I'm going out and I want to book Lecrae, I have to follow certain things. I got to talk to his booking agency, then I got to deal with their procedures. So these are things where you're working with hand in hand with various things. So it is a partnership of, they have to understand the promoter's vision and how that works. It's very key for that to happen. So then the artist will know how to maneuver and do their promotions and fall in line. And then the whole, that relationship, it needs to be cohesive. And a common goal, and that's really where the dynamics will happen.
Awesome. I just got a message that I have to let you know, DeShaun. Are you wearing a chain right now, DeShaun?
Yes. It's making
we can
noise?
hear it.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just wondering if you can.
I will it's a bracelet. I'll take it off.
Okay. I feel your pain because I do that all the time too. I have bracelets and everything. And it's like, what? I like my shakers. I'm a percussionist.
Okay, I'm good. I'm done.
And the earrings, yes, I'm getting the earrings. Always the earrings.
Oh yeah. No earrings.
All right. Our sound technician's law. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's get back to the conversation.
Promoters, yes. So there are different
promoters, right?
Ways, different ways of doing things. They depends on, but we all follow the same thing. Whether you're promoting a hip hop show, you know your demographic. If you're promoting a country show, you know your demographic. Right. You're promoting praise and worship, you know your demographic. You're promoting rock, you know your demographic. Jazz, same thing, but it's the same procedure of knowing how to reach them, what you want to reach them, and it depends on the different ways you want to do your marketing spend and how creative you can be, and as well as I think what separates a lot of producers of events is the actual event itself, the experience. So to answer your question, that's what I would say can differentiate between different promoters and concert producers is what is the experience when the audience gets there. Is it just a show? Then that's what the promoter does. He just does a show. Right. But is there other additional things that are there? Are there vendors? Are there activities? Are there is there concession? Is there games for the kids? What experience does the promoter have? Like that's why people like going to festivals, because there's more than one thing to do before you go check out your favorite Christian artist. Shout outs to Wild Wild Kingdom in the.
So what you've kind of done there is you've turned the concert into an event, and that in itself, but people will kind of keep with them as they have gone on afterward. They say, "Oh, you should have seen this concert event I was at. It wasn't just a person performing,
right?
Yeah, this and it." So, like you said, the experience exactly.
Yeah, it's like they call it like when you go to a football game, they call it game day experience. Having a chance to work a little bit at early years in my career, had a chance to work with a young Christian DJ that I was able to get to work with the Hamilton Tiger Cats for a short time, and just the whole game day experience was very vital because their marketing team is doing the job to attract people, and football is what's attracting them, the connection they have to the brand. And then when they get there, they get an experience. It's not just about popcorn and peanuts. They toss out T-shirts, they do giveaways, and sometimes you see that at concerts where they'll do a giveaway, or they have some type of presentation by a charity or something that just dynamic that can, as you said before, they can take something home with them and even just post about it. Hey, you should have. I'm going to be there next year. Or if it's a music series, then it's monthly. It's like they're going to anticipate the next one because it was just nice, or if it's a conference, they go in, there's an experience that they have. So that differentiates between, as you said, a concert to an event, so I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. I think there's added value in that for the participants that they go to watch a concert, and it ends up being much more.
It's huge.
Like,
yeah, exactly. It's an experience.
Yeah. And I always call it the wow factor. If you're able to put a wow factor into your event, then people will really gravitate to that.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. It's an experience.
And that's exactly, I was actually going to ask this question. What in a promoter's mind actually makes an event successful? What are some definitions? You just talked about the experience, obviously how the audience responds, right? But there's other factors as well, like the artist, the venue, the other stuff. So I'm curious, does a promoter look at the big picture and go, all of this is what makes a successful event?
So do you come away from it afterwards saying, "Oh, that was so successful because," and then that the one thing?
Well, there's
definitely
a multiple amount of things. Well, one, the safety of people who are going there. They actually were there and enjoyed it.
Yeah.
That's one, and then two, the artist has a great experience. That they were, that your whole production went through, your hospitality was in check. They were happy, they're comfortable, because that's your main commodity, being there. Once they're happy, then you're going to get a good product. Then that means that's going to resonate to your audience. Then your audience is going to take that experience back with them and say the same thing. So success could be, which very rarely happens in concerts and events, is no sound issues, no video issues, no light issues. If that happens, perfect. Again, no accidents, no nothing. So it's there's. And then obviously common denominator with everything. Everybody knows that is to turn a profit if possible. Break even is huge, but turning a profit or make a connection to the community. Utilize the event actually was a vehicle to impact the community in various ways, through charity or through food banks, or you were able to retain sponsors. So that could be a huge success. Just to build a relationship with a brand that could share in your vision, and that's again that separates different promoters. What's the vision of each promoter? What do they want to do for the community or their place, the location that they're in? So that's huge, as individual artists, you have to have the same mentality. I want to have people to have an impact. You can still do the same type of thing for 50 people you'll do for 500 or 5,000. Why not? It's the early stages is like dress rehearsal.
Right.
I always say,
get it.
When you perform for free, or if you perform for a little money and there's not a lot of people there, just say it's a paid rehearsal, so you're good. Either way, you're good.
Oh, absolutely. That's
get exposure.
Right. You have the opportunity to take this and make it a valued event because of something that you can get from it, but also something you can give. You have an opportunity to a low-paying event to still make a big impact. There's depending on what is going on in your life at that point, but that's I think is really important to consider that. Again, not to the point where you're a doormat and you're going to do everything to people people ask you to come and sing, and then you walk away. Man, that took me 3 hours to get there. That kind of thing.
Well, you know what? I think it's sharing. This is the relationship building between artist and promoter or talent booker. They should have conversations of that, and then once if the promoter has a certain agenda or vision, needs to share that with the artist, and if they feel that they want to contribute, that's on them. But don't assume. That makes sense. Don't assume, because they still have hard costs to get to your venue. Definitely hospitality should be number one from everybody who wants to bring up an artist or into their venue, or it's a church or
Yes.
a city or whatever it is. Do your best to take care of the hard costs of travel, accommodations, things of that nature. And then if you have to negotiate the back end, then you negotiate a back end. If there is going to be tickets, if there is going to be concession being sold, if there is going to be, if you are going to, let's say, a winery, and the winery likes jazz and they do like more of an adult contemporary style. So if you do inspirational music, they might have something on a Sunday, or you want to do a Sunday brunch, but you can perform there. But they're going to be serving wine there, so you got to look at it. They're still making money while you're performing and doing your music, so you still have to have understand again what they're doing and the type of venue you're going after, and to determine okay, I might not be getting a lot here, but the exposure opportunity is huge because this is a youth conference that is in Niagara Falls, and they have about 10,000 people that show up every year. Because you can make money on merch. You can have your table there and sell your merch. If you share your story, you make that impact connection from the stage, they're going to come down and they're going to gravitate to you, even if they give you an email, that's still a plus, because that's one you didn't have before. And you can impact somebody that needed to hear your music at that time and your message.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I was going to say the exact same thing, except it's like you'd be able to expand on it more. But I was about to say, yeah, this is a great time for artists and promoters to have that conversation. But I was going to ask you about this. I know we've been talking a lot about artists because we normally deal with the artists, but I'm actually going to ask about venues and the relationship between the promoters and the venue. I guess the venue representative. I won't say the venue as the building, but you know what I mean, the venue representative. Is it that much different than working with an artist? And even with your own experience in dealing with venues and being a promoter, how is that? What's the dynamic that happens there?
Well, bottom line, a venue is a business. They have expenses and they have people they have to pay that they have bills to pay too. So they're coming in it as they're providing a service. And again, if the promoter wants to share his vision to that building and that venue and they feel that they want to support the event in a way of maybe sponsoring, maybe they give a discount off of the rental fees or do whatever, or in a case where it's like a bar, they might say, okay, you know what, you get the door, we're gonna pay for the sound man, but you still have to cover whatever else. So it's bottom line that it is a business. It's a building that has hard costs. And if it takes staff to make sure that things are done properly, and those people need to be paid. Usually, the venue sometimes will provide sound and audio. So it depends, in that discussion. Then, if that's part of it, then there's cost there, unless they're going to, sponsor the event and be a part of it. So, it's definitely a different relationship than an artist, because an artist is coming into this in a totally different mindset. The venue is just a venue. The venue owner might not even be there. They're going to have staff to run it for them. They're just there to turn the lights on and cut me a check. Thank you very much. Bottom line.
I understand
it's
that.
fair. It's fair.
Yeah. I mean, that's to get their income. But the thing is, I'm looking at maybe the other side of the coin, where you have a person who's maybe in fellowship at a church somewhere, and they have an opportunity to do something in the hall or in the auditorium. And there's maybe a little bit different dynamic in that regard to the venue as far as that. But there still is the point of that contact person. So, I mean, there's still that conversation that needs to happen, right? So I'm just saying this for the benefit of people who are saying, well, I'm not going to go and pay for a venue. Well, yeah, but there still has to be an opportunity there to have a conversation with the people who are in charge of the venue.
Right. Exactly. You have to. You need to rent the building, so you need to talk to the building manager or the booking manager. Just like if you want to book an artist, you have to talk to the booking manager. You can't, some artists you can go directly, and some artists have a representative that handles their arrangements. And because there's certain things that need to be in place before that artist or music minister that needs to, they might have another engagement somewhere else, so if they need to start their planning and planning their routing of their tour, if they're doing a promotional tour, if they're doing, visiting different churches, and they need to route it properly. So these are things that conversations need to happen, and people just need to know, what's the nuts and bolts, and say, okay, well, this is how I'll proceed.
Well, would you think that you still need to have a conversation? Let's say you are a part of a church and you are the one who's putting on the event. Maybe the church is putting on the event themselves.
Right.
What kind of conversation should that be like?
Well, if the church is putting on an event, and that's different. Again, you as a promoter is working with the church. But if you want to use the church facility for your event, you still need to have a conversation with the pastor or the church manager,
Yeah.
building manager.
Those conversations still have to be made.
It has to happen, because then you need their permission.
Yeah.
You know, because they might not want, they might not have available those days because of other things they're doing, or they, and obviously it's a great way of generating revenue for a church through that, residual income on that. But you still have to have a conversation, because they need to plan. They need to talk to their staff. They can promote it. Then they can promote it through their network. So you have to definitely in line with your church leadership when it comes to putting on an event at a church. If you're a member of a church, because you can't get in. You have no key. So you need to talk to the church.
Well, totally. You have to have those conversations, and PA as well. Like, you may need to bring in like someone like my friend Daryl, who is a sound tech extraordinaire. You may have to bring in somebody who has the gear that makes the event happen, right? So
definitely,
maybe you have that conversation again. So as an artist, I'm just saying this. So as an artist, you need to really cover your bases, because every event, every venue is different, and then you have to realize, again, it's back to the button seats thing. Sorry, I keep saying that, but I think it's important to know how many people you can actually get to your event or to your concert, to be able to establish how much money you're going to invest in it, right?
Well, yeah, that's the development, artist development side, and the marketing side, and again, knowing your value side. So everybody needs to do their homework on what to do, or need to do their research and put their ducks in a row. The artist needs to do it, and the promoter needs to do it, because again, it is a partnership that the artist wants to get booked, for something, because that builds upon how they generate their revenue and how they generate a following. And the promoter, this is their livelihood. I'm putting on concerts. Yes, I want to break even. Yes, I want to impact my community. But yes, I would like to make a living on it and pay my bills with it. You know what I mean? And then so I get and then reinvest into the next one. But you need to turn your lights on and drink your cup of Milo just to get your energy going. So having all that. That's the common denominator. We all know that. So it's definitely conversations have to happen from every stage and working together.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Listen, why don't we take another commercial break? And
that's a good idea, because I was going to change gears, so that's good. That's good. I'm going to change gears after that.
Right.
Very good.
GMIHub is accepting new songs for their 2023 Christmas compilation. To find out how to submit your song, go to www.gmihub.ca today. GMIHub Family Christmas Volume 4.
Well, I'm excited about that. Going to be so cool. Sorry, I'm talking, Cheryl's face is up there, but I think it's so cool what's going to happen this Christmas. Looking forward to it. Oh yeah, please submit your songs, please. Awesome. All right, sorry, Cheryl. Okay, I wanted to change gears a little bit, if that's okay. We just come back from commercial.
Okay,
We're talking about the venue and events, but what about if a promoter has an artist coming in and they want some opening acts, or they want some other musicians to join in on this party, or maybe they are kind of at a place where they want a concept for an event, but they haven't got an artist. So how does an artist, or does a promoter have to go through this talent search, kind of looking for a person to perform at his event?
How does the promoter?
Or is that his job at all? Is that his job at all?
If I'm putting on an event and I would like to have my headliner, and I want to have an opener, and then I want to have a warm up group, then my research needs to go in to say, okay, if my venue holds 500 people, then I know my headliner is going to bring at least 300. I'm going to try to find an opening group that can maybe have anywhere between 50 to 100 or to 200 people that will follow them. I need to know, at least do my own research on who's around my territory, so then I don't have to fly them in or anything of that nature. It's more of a local or regional band that might be on tour of themselves, or I can just gas money bring them in. So these are things where the promoter definitely needs to do some homework on who he wants to bring in and what works. And then 9 times out of 10, if the artists are doing their job at that level, I'm doing it at a 500 cap level just for our the discussion. If they need to be doing their research on what artists are coming into the city, so then they know they can hit that promoter really early, because he needs to make a decision. There's a lot of moving parts because he's getting bombarded by artists that are doing that themselves, or he already has maybe a list, his own little list of people, or he's keeping tabs because I'm sure he's checking Spotify. He's like, okay, I'm gonna type in, hey, I like this band. Oh, he find out they're in their local area, or if he knows that bands are going in the local area, if they have their boots on the ground and ears out there, they'll know who to go for, and in their search.
Exactly.
But they're gonna get bombarded and approached by artists as well. And then you can make a decision as long as it fits, and again, they're going to do it, because it's not just talent. They have to have work ethic. They have to have shown that they've gone out there and they're promoting themselves, so they can say, yeah, we can come in and we can bring you 50 people, or I can bring you 100 people. And he should know that based on either content that they've sent to him that shows and proves that they've put on their own shows, or been booked by a venue that has 200, 300 people in there, and it was their show. If it was only 100 people, be honest, cool. This was 100 people. We know they paid $10 to see us. We made $1,000 from the door. We made $1,500 at merch. We were able to get the local skateboard shop to throw in some swag or whatever. And they were able to have a booth there. They paid for that. So there's a lot of things that they see, because as a promoter, if an artist did that to me, I'd be like, okay, cool. Now we're going to work together, because you're going to understand what I have to go through. What I have to do to say, yeah, I'm going to pay you $500, but I also got a $2,500 headline artist I got to pay as well. What type of revenue can I bring in from 500 people coming in? And what else am I going to do? Is it sponsors or things? I'm just throwing out numbers, just to say.
No, but you're right.
But this is what's in my head as a concert event producer and a promoter. And other promoters are on a granular scale, some are not. But it's the same thing. You got to think of different things, that if there's a big thing happening and Michael W. Smith is coming to Toronto, who's going to open up for him? People want to know who's opening up for Michael W. And those because they might have a draw. I might not maybe be a huge, humongous follower of Michael W., but he's going to have, let's say, Stacey Rico. I'm like, oh my gosh, Stacey Rico's coming to Canada? I'm there. So it really depends, because she hits the demographic of the children of the Michael W. Smith fans. So the promoter, if he's smart, he can tackle two demographics, and now you've created a family experience, where they now can share in that. So there's a lot of connecting the dots and puzzle pieces that you have to play it. And if you can be creative, you can have fun. The sky's the limit. There's no box. So just think of it, and then try to do it.
Right, and I was thinking about, as you were talking there, I was thinking that there's so many different variables. Like, for instance, a promoter has to be considerate of the location they're in, that there's no other concerts going on at the same time, especially in the summertime. You have so many events happening. You really have to do your research. Don't promote your event on the night where, like, Hillsong is coming into Toronto and you got a venue. And it's like, dude, you're just shooting yourself in the foot, or whatever. You want to be very careful when you're producing an event, that you do your research to make sure there's nothing happening in your region that's going to defer your audience.
Exactly, and that's the smart way of doing it. And you'll know your audience, and you know your demographic, you know your market, and you'll know who's coming to your city. You'll know it, because you're going to be following those same channels. You're going to be following the same media channels. They're going to pay attention to GMIHub. They're going to do that. They're going to go on. They're going to listen to Huntley Street, or they're going to listen to Joy 1250 or whatever radio station in their area, and they're going to get that information, because the record labels and the promoters and the PR people are going to send them that information to say, hey, I'm going to be in your city. And now, as a young artist being impacted by that, they should be taking that as a lesson to say, I could do the same thing when I'm going to be in Ottawa. I'm going to contact the local Christian radio station ahead of time to let them know, because especially if you're working with a local church there for a youth conference, you're going to want, because that's your venue now, you're going to want to work with them to promote the event by telling them you're going to be there. And then impacting and engaging your audience in that territory. If you actually have followers in Ottawa or whatever area you are, then you can help the event, and then that's part of your negotiating too, because you can say, I have a very good marketing presence in Ottawa. I'm just using Ottawa as an
Right.
example. So then again, when you approach a conference or a live music venue or a festival or whatever, or promote another promoter, then you can actually truly say that I'd be a great opener for this band, or I'm putting on my own show. Then you'll know. It's just about getting impact in that territory and then understanding what it takes. So it's looking at those things and then really knowing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. If you're a young artist out there and you're doing small tours, or you're well received in certain areas, just like DeShaun was saying, you have an opportunity to call places in that area and say, hey, I'm going to be in your town, or just going to be south of your, and I'm going to head through. Do you want me to drop by your church this weekend? Are you available to, have those conversations? Because you never know. I mean, even those, they sound like it's a lot of work, but really, if you're going to that, like if you're going to Montreal and you're passing through, Timbuktu, wherever, give the pastor a call in that area. Say, hey, look, I'm driving through the next day. I got a concert. I was wondering, do you have available Saturday night at your church? It's just, it makes sense. It makes sense because there's not any extra effort to you as you're traveling that way, right?
And that's they call that routing. That's the best way of learning what they call routing as any artist. And it's just, you're going to be going that way anyway. So try to even if you can't get in the church, maybe there's a library or a art gallery or some type of there's a mission building there, like a school, like a public school. Talk to them and say, hey, I would love to come in and impact your youth. This is what I do. I do inspirational music, because a lot of them might not want something that's too religious unless you're going to a Christian school. Then that's great. There's a lot of Christian high schools. There's a lot of Christian schools in Ontario. You can do that too. So that's part of your tour. But once you build an anchor, once you have an anchor date, then you build around that. They're going there and coming back.
Absolutely.
And
that's what the big guys do. That's what the big bands do. They do the exact same thing.
Oh yeah. For
They
sure.
do that routing whenever they're on tour. They themselves may not do that. But the marketing guys and all the PR guys are doing all that work. Yeah, totally.
And you know what? Even outside of music, delivery trucks do it all the time. UPS and those guys, they go to the furthest distance and then work their way back. And they can try, and sometimes they can pick some things up and they got to drop some things off. So they already know logistics is a big thing when it comes to creating your own promotional tour or hitting different areas. And so knowing how about routing and knowing about logistics and what makes sense and time, and giving yourself time for travel. It's just understanding the smart way of working smart, not working hard, and then make it more enjoyable so you don't lose hope. So
now here's another thought. Here's another thought that I want to interject, and I don't know if this derails the conversation or actually helps with the conversation. But when you're thinking about, as you were talking about routing and thinking about, I was thinking about international artists coming in to an area or a territory, and if they're the type of artist that can actually draw a number of people, wouldn't it be to their advantage? I don't know if this is a promoter's kind of hat to do this, but would it be to their advantage to actually engage the local artists that are in that area as well? So for example, an artist says, hey, I'm traveling to Ottawa, and connects with another artist that already lives in Ottawa and says, hey, let's do something together. And and therefore it's kind of a mutual kind of promotion of one another, if that makes any sense. Now, I don't know if a promoter would actually do that though.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean that happens all the time, where they'll, especially in gospel, a major artist will come into the town and they'll use an opportunity to showcase a upcoming emerging artist. If it's a local church and they're bringing in someone who's a bigger name that can draw, their church will be packed out at 300 people. They're going to have probably their own little Christian band open up for them, type of thing. So it's definitely sometimes major artists can request someone if they have a really good relationship with them. I've actually heard stories about that, and I think that's awesome too. Just the camaraderie and the collaboration. Maybe they have a song together, or maybe not. They just they just like what they do. They love it, and they want to give that young artist a leg up, a little push. But collaboration is big and on that. But yeah, it's definitely advantageous for them on that level. But it's usually the promoter should use that as a good way of selling tickets, if you want to call it, or generating an audience, because they could be the warm up and then you have your opener, and then you have your headliner. So then, you know, it depends on, again, the promoter's vision for the event.
Right.
Yeah. I always go to the Gaithers. I'm sorry, I just the way that the Gaithers put their presentations together. They follow that format, like you just said. They have a warm-up artist, and it doesn't have to be a musical talent. It could be a comedian, a ventriloquist, or whatever, and that's their warm-up. Larry? And then they have, exactly. Yeah, or they have somebody else do some stand-up, and then they have somebody else come in, and the opening act is a song that's our singers that are in maybe the country field, but they're not quite Southern gospel. They're almost, but there's a bluegrass. You may have something like that. And I've seen a concert where they had a bluegrass open for, and then they get into the quartet stuff. So there's an opportunity for a variety to happen there. So again, we talked about earlier, you created an event where it's not just a concert. You've had a good laugh. You've had introduced to some music. It's the experience of it all. So those thought processes have to go through the same thing. Absolutely.
Yep. See, that was the proper foundation. I always loved that old school foundation, because I watched the Gaithers. I'd watch people like Carmen and how he would sell out his stadiums, and I'd was like, how does he do it every single time? And I found, certain things. I find out how he reversed as a promoter. He reversed it where there was his incentive was it's free. So I'm going to make sure you put bums in the seats, as you say, Dale, for sure, because there's no deterrent. It's a free event. Yeah. I'm going to go. So then if you know you're going to pack out a 30,000, or even let me dumb it down a bit. Let's say you can pack out, you want to pack out 1,000 people in a venue, and you make it free. Then you can turn around and go to any local businesses. I guarantee 1,000 potential customers are going to come to this event. I'm going to charge you 50 cents per impression of this customer as a sponsor.
Right, exactly.
You've just generated revenue for your event, and you're spending somebody else's money to produce an event that you want to do.
Exactly. And again, that's one other thing that people may not realize. They can actually approach other people for that sponsorship, or whatever you want to call it, to be involved in that event.
It's not that hard if you understand the dynamics of, and but sometimes just by watching, see what the bigger guys are doing, see what the people who are more established, because they have a team around, a bunch of thinkers. Yeah. So they've already done it for you, and you're looking at and just make what's relevant to you. Like there's some things that McDonald's might do, you might not be able to do it, but it's a cool idea that maybe you can maybe make it relevant to where you're at in your career and in your development.
Yeah, exactly.
And be creative with it. There is no box.
Yeah, exactly.
That's our motto. I've heard that motto before. There is no box.
Oh yeah, that mantra's been around. I love it. I've always, when I first time I heard it, I was like, he's exactly right.
But didn't the Matrix say there is no spoon? There is no spoon.
There's no spoon.
That's right. There is no spoon. There is no spoon.
All right. Well, so maybe
I'd like.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
Go ahead, Dale. Oh
no, please.
We're preferring one another again. Oh my goodness. All I was gonna say is, we have a few more minutes left. I was just trying to think of so let's summarize here. Let's see if we can summarize a little bit of what the promoter's mindset is when it comes to events. What are they looking into, and what their bottom line is the bottom line, really. Is it not? It's the bottom line is trying to make sure they at least meet the costs. But while they're doing that, they're also wanting to create an experience that every entity that's involved will have a positive experience with. Is that a good summary? Yes.
That's a good summary.
No.
Yeah, everybody saying it has to be it should be a win-win, and again, everybody has to have a common goal. And it's up to the promoter to share that common goal or vision of the event or music series or festival. Yeah. So then moving forward, everybody's knows their role, and not a negative way. It's just that they're all moving in one accord, and that's where you're all in. When you're all in one accord, then you know it's going to work, because they're all moving at the same pace. Everybody understands, and especially if the artist has an experience of knowing what it costs and does mentally, physically, spiritually, everything of promoting your own show, then you'll know how to have a really good relationship with a talent booker from a church, or somebody who handles the events at a church or a conference or a festival. And you'll know how, because you'll understand what they have to do. And then the end experience is the people who are coming to the event, you're giving them an experience, and you're doing your job to bring your people in. You're bringing your people in as well, and you have to share that not really a burden, but you got to share that workload. That's why work ethic is big. I mean, talent is one thing, but work ethic will go much longer. With me, it goes much longer, because you know, it is definitely a team effort, and to see it happen. So yeah, you're definitely right on your observation on that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been very educational. If you want to learn more from DeShaun, he's more active on Instagram, right? So you can get him at Holy Hill. Is that right? At Holy Hill Records.
Holy Hill Records.
You can connect with him. Yeah. So you can connect with him on Instagram. He'd love to answer your questions. And believe me, he's been calm tonight. He hasn't shared everything that's in his brain. You know, get on the phone with this guy. He's going to give you so much information. By the time you're done, you're going to say, okay, I just need to filter all of that, but kind of process everything and see if I got it all. And then you can ask him more questions so he can repeat it all to you.
Yeah, I got to get it all out. I got to get it all out.
Yeah.
You know, it's always, you know, that's why I do consulting, because, you know, just like sit down with me for, you know, an hour, and we'll have some Milo and beef patties, and we'll be good.
Yes, of course.
Depending what day, it might be oxtail and rice. You never know, you know.
Yeah.
All right, I'll come to your house for that one.
Yeah. Get some good food.
Oh my gosh. Look. There you go. There you go. This has been an actually awesome conversation. And if you're watching this and you have any questions that you wanted DeShaun to answer, and you may be watching this after the live, and that's fine. Go ahead and send those questions to us, or like I said, you can message him at Holy Hill Records, and he'd be happy to answer those questions. And, you know, we are going to continue every week. We want to try and do a conversation similar to this that's going to help you as an artist, or you who is in the music industry, to fulfill what you do and do it really, really well. If you have any thoughts of what you would like us to talk about, send it to us at GMIHub.ca, and go right ahead and follow us on all the social medias. We're on Facebook, on Instagram, we're on TikTok, at GMIHub. We're also on Twitter, which is at Industry Gospel. We look forward to hearing from you as well. Consider signing up to be on our membership list so that you can be a part of the projects that we are doing, whether they're artist showcases, where it's compilation projects, or anything else that's coming up that we haven't announced yet. But trust me, there's a lot going on behind the scenes.
Yes.
But until then, we are planning to be back next week, same time, same channel, with a whole new conversation. And so we want to see you back. Until then,
and before we go, hang on.
Go. There's more.
I got a little homework for you guys to do. I want you to smack the like button on here and get people to subscribe, share the experience, let people know. We want to really grow this, and you can help us do that. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.